You're using it right now. AI. It's writing your emails, creating your memes, and powering the next industrial revolution. But this revolution isn't just being fought in code, it's a full-blown global arms race. And the United States is no longer guaranteed to win. For years, the story was simple. American tech giants like OpenAI and Google were the undisputed kings of AI. But that era is over. A new set of contenders have emerged from China, and they aren't just catching up, they're competing at the absolute highest level. Models like DeepSeek, Zhipu AI's GLM, and Baidu's Ernie are now achieving performance on par with, and in some cases superior to, their American rivals. On leaderboards that rank AI by human preference, DeepSeek is in a statistical dead heat with the much more expensive Claude in the critical domain of code generation. This isn't a distant threat. This is a present-day reality, a high-stakes competition for technological supremacy, and it has an insatiable appetite. An appetite for power that's so immense, it's pushing our entire national infrastructure to the breaking point. The race for AI has ignited a second and more desperate race, a scramble for energy. And the nation that solves its energy problem first will be the nation that leads the world technologically. But the solution the US is betting on has its own critical flaw, a vulnerability that runs so deep, it could stop the revolution dead in its tracks. So why is AI so uniquely power hungry? It comes down to two phases, training and inference. Think of it like an athlete. Training is the intense one-time sprint to get ready. Inference is the endless marathon of actually competing. A training model like OpenAI's GPT-3 took an estimated 1,300 megawatts of electricity. That's enough to power 130 American homes for a year. Its successor, GPT-4, is estimated to have required 50 times more. But here's the kicker. Training is just the beginning. The real energy costs, up to 90% of the model's entire life cycle footprint, comes from inference, the energy used every single time you ask it a question. A single AI query uses 5 times more electricity than a conventional Google search, and this is all happening on specialized, power-hungry hardware. A traditional server rack might use 5 kilowatts of power. A single rack of AI servers with the latest GPUs can consume 100 kilowatts, a 20-fold increase. This creates a pace mismatch. AI computation is on an exponential curve, doubling in demand every few months. But building a power plant or a transmission line is a linear process that takes years, or sometimes even a decade. The result, projections are staggering. After 2 decades of flat energy demand, US electricity use is set to surge. Some forecasts see data center demand more than tripling to over 10% of total US electricity by 2030. That's a demand shock our system was never designed to handle. We haven't seen growth like this in a generation. These aren't just forecasts, the strain is happening right now, creating hotspots of grid instability across the country. The epicenter is Northern Virginia, Data Center Alley, the single largest concentration of data centers on the planet, through which a massive portion of the world's internet traffic flows through. The local utility, Dominion Energy, is in crisis mode. The pipeline of data centers requesting power from them nearly doubled in just 6 months. They have requests for over 40 gigawatts of power. That's the equivalent of 40 nuclear reactors. It's so extreme, the state has to start limiting new power connections. But this isn't just about power shortages. In Chicago, another data hub, the problem is bad harmonics. The massive spiky loads from AI are distorting the electrical current, causing home appliances to overheat, electronics to fail, and creating fire risks for residents. But it gets even worse. A recent federal report has issued a stark warning. If this demand surge continues alongside planned retirement of fossil fuel plants, the risk of energy shortfalls and widespread blackouts across large parts of the country could increase dramatically. This is the consequence of the AI arms race, a strained, fragile grid pushed to its breaking point. So if we need more clean energy, why not just build more solar panels and wind turbines? Big tech has poured billions into them. But here's the problem. Data centers need power 24/7, 365. They never sleep. Solar and wind, however, do. Solar panels have a capacity factor of about 25%, wind around 35%. That means over a year, they only produce a fraction of their potential power. You can't run AI on the promise of the sun coming up. To make renewables reliable, you need massive scale battery storage. And while battery costs are falling, adding them to wind and solar projects makes the final costs of electricity skyrocket. This isn't the only problem. The US is facing systemic bottlenecks. There are so many new energy projects trying to connect to the grid it has created a bureaucratic traffic jam. A waiting list that is years long. Over 95% of the projects that are stuck in that line are wind, solar, and batteries. So, the AI industry needs a source of clean, firm power that can run 24/7, and it needs it now. And that has led them to one, and really only one option: nuclear power. It's the single largest source of carbon-free electricity in the United States, providing almost 20% of all of our power. And its key feature? Reliability. Nuclear plants in the United States operate at over 92% capacity factor. They are the definition of firm baseload power. And big tech has taken notice. In a series of landmark deals, they are throwing a financial lifeline to the country's aging nuclear fleet. Amazon signed a deal to acquire a nuclear-powered data center campus located right next to the Susquehanna plant in Pennsylvania, giving it direct 24/7 clean power. And Microsoft has hired a nuclear energy expert to lead its strategy for powering its own data centers with the next generation of advanced reactors. This is the immediate solution, using the existing nuclear fleet to weather the storm. It is a brilliant move, but it solves only half of the problem. Because as we plan to build the next generation of AI, we need a next generation of nuclear reactors. And to build those, you need fuel, and that is America's Achilles heel. This is where the story becomes a geopolitical thriller. The United States, the world's largest nuclear power producer, has almost no domestic supply chain left. We are critically dependent on foreign countries. Let that sink in. The journey from uranium in the ground to fuel assembly in a reactor is long and complex, and there are vulnerabilities at every step. For uranium mining, we once led the world. Today, we produce less than 1% of what our reactors use. We import over 99% of our raw uranium. For conversion and enrichment, these are the most critical steps, where uranium gas is processed to increase the concentration of the fissile U-235 isotope. They are technologically difficult and capital intensive. And who dominates the markets? Well, of course, our geopolitical adversaries. Russia's state-owned corporation, Rosatom, controls an estimated 40% of the world's uranium enrichment capacity. For years, the United States was one of their biggest customers. In 2022, nearly a quarter of the enriched uranium in United States reactors came from Russia. Following the invasion of Ukraine, the US passed a law to ban Russian uranium imports. It was a necessary move for national security, but it blew a massive hole in the global fuel market and exposed how vulnerable we are. While the West scrambles to untangle itself from Russia, another strategic competitor is making quiet and calculated moves to dominate the nuclear future. That, of course, being China. China is planning the largest nuclear power expansion in world history, with plans for as many as 150 new reactors. To feed them, Chinese state-owned companies are executing a global strategy to lock up the world's uranium supply. In Namibia, Chinese firms control stakes in all three major uranium mines. In Kazakhstan, the world's #1 producer, China has secured as much as 60% of their uranium exports. China's strategy is clear: control the raw material feedstock for the entire world. This creates a powerful Sino-Russian axis in the nuclear fuel market, putting the United States and its allies in an incredibly precarious position. We're not just dependent, we're dependent on nations that don't share our interests. And the stakes get even higher when we look into the future. To truly solve the AI energy crisis, the industry is betting on a new generation of advanced reactors, primarily small modular reactors, SMRs. These reactors promise to be safer, more affordable, and built in a factory, making them perfect for powering a data center campus directly. This is the holy grail. But there's a catch. 9 out of the 10 advanced reactor designs funded by the US government can't use traditional nuclear fuel. They need a more potent fuel called high-assay, low-enriched uranium, or HALEU. And guess who are currently the only countries in the world that produce HALEU at a commercial scale? Russia and China, of course. The future of American energy innovation, the very technology needed to power the future of American AI, is dependent on a supply chain controlled by Moscow and Beijing. This is the heart of the nuclear arms race. The US is now in a scramble to build the domestic HALEU supply chain from scratch. The government is pumping billions into the effort, with a US company, Centrus Energy, leading the charge to pioneer American HALEU production at a plant in Ohio. This isn't just a commercial enterprise, it's a race for technological sovereignty. So here's the bottom line. The race to win the future of artificial intelligence is no longer just about who has the smartest algorithm. It is a bare-knuckle fight for energy. And that fight is forcing the United States into a second, even more critical race, a race to rebuild its entire nuclear industrial basis from the ground up. To power the AI of the 2030s, we need a fleet of advanced SMRs. To fuel those SMRs, we need a secure supply of HALEU. And to get that HALEU, we have to break our dangerous dependence on Russia and China and relearn how to mine, process, and enrich uranium right here at home. The challenges are monumental. The costs are astronomical. The political and regulatory hurdles that have stalled the nuclear industry for over 40 years are still there. But for the first time in a generation, there is a powerful and undeniable demand and an unprecedented push from the highest levels of government. The AI revolution has given the nuclear industry something it hasn't had in decades, a clear and urgent mission. This is a marathon and not a sprint, and the outcomes will determine not just who leads the world in technology, but who holds the power in every sense of the word. If you like this market deep dive, please consider liking the video and subscribing. I'd love to have you. There's much more to come, and most importantly, thank you for watching.